Hello. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Baruch Hashem.
I'm running a little late. A little late.
Hey, how are those birth certificates coming along, man? We need those.
Good actually. Good actually. The person is on it. And yeah, I talked to them this week and they're making an appointment. They're going down to the
Because we gotta execute that plan. I'm not kidding.
I'm with you, man.
Yeah. No, I mean the whole mishpacha here is down with it. They're waiting for me to kind of put the pieces together. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well. All right. Well, we'll make it happen. All right. Is this one?
Yeah, just that's fine. You can use that one.
Or I don't have to.
Yeah, we can use it together.
Okay. Okay. All right. We're on not Mishpatim. Okay. We're on Terumah.
Get the one.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
How's the lighting?
It's great.
Good. All right. Good.
It's great. Would you like to be co-host?
Yes.
No, I'm also asking Aaron. I'm going to make you co-host automatically. Yeah, I'll make Aaron co-host too, if he wants. So, this is an interesting parsha from my perspective because, you know, it includes a lot of instructions about how to make stuff, and actually a lot of my people, you know, are interested in things like how to make an altar, and this is how to do it. So maybe we can touch a little bit on that, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I was going to talk about some of the, you know,
Oh, you're breaking up already. You're killing me.
Should I let people in yet?
Yeah, let's let people in. We'll go ahead and let people in, but I'll let Aaron know. Aaron, let me see in the chat. Aaron's breaking up. I'm just Aaron Romano. Always sucks. Hi. Oh, look at that.
Very nice. I like that.
Look how.
Hello.
Hi. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
We're waiting. Aaron popped off for a second because his internet wasn't so good, I think. Was that a cat?
Of course it is. We're on camera.
We're on Catma.
Cat, why wouldn't it?
Okay. Oh, Aaron's back.
But he's not in the picture.
But he's not in the.
He's disappeared completely. That's too funny.
Okay. All right. Now he's muted. Now you're muted, buddy. Unmute yourself. He's talking. He's. Oh my God, dude. Unmute. Okay, Aaron. We have to.
Okay.
Ask. All right. There we go. Yeah, buddy.
So I think what we can do is I can use half the time to talk about some of the concepts behind the parsha, and then if you want, we can go into, you can explore the actual mechanics, the construction.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
That would be
All right.
awesome.
All right.
Awesome. I love it. So,
Okay. Shalom
welcome,
aleichem, everybody. Are we in?
Hello.
Is everybody in? Good. Good. We have everyone here. Okay. So shalom, everybody. It's so glad to have you here. It's an honor to be here with Temple of Miriam and members, non-members, people who are tuning in, and of course, Rabbi Yirmiyahu. I am Aharon Yosef ben Mordechai, and I am Rabbi Yirmiyahu's cousin. And so I'll be leading the shiur today on Parsha Terumah. So before we begin with the shiur, we all say a blessing about the Torah, that the Torah comes from a divine source. And so we make a blessing off of things that we do here on earth, in the material world, that are from the divine. And what blessings ordinarily do is they take the mundane, they take the material world, and once we acknowledge its divine source with a blessing, we're now elevating the material source around us, and be it a food, be it seeing something beautiful, a tree in bloom, smelling a fragrant spice. These are all things that, according to Jewish custom and tradition, would warrant a blessing. And before we do that, just to discuss very briefly, well, let's start with the blessing, and then I'll just go into the background of the Torah real quick before we get into the Parsha. So the blessing, we say, acknowledges the divine source of the Torah. It says, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, asher bacha banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Hashem noten ha'torah. Blessed are you, Hashem, our King of the universe, who selected us and gave us his Torah. Blessed are you, Hashem, giver of the Torah. So first, brief introductory remarks for those of you who haven't been unsure before. I will be referring to God in different ways, using different names. God is the one that we most commonly use. And then there's the word that we use.
You cut out.
Okay. How about now?
Yeah, good. Okay.
All right.
You're just going to be referring to God in different ways.
Interchangeably with several different terms. We won't be using the divine name that's used in the Torah or in prayer, because it's not in our tradition to use that name unless you are actually praying. So when we refer to God, we refer to God as the name. And why do you say the name? Well, the name honors the whole principle behind the Jewish idea or concept of God. Jews believe that God is one. So what does one mean? One means everything. So when you encompass everything, it's all the material that's here. It's all the non-material that's here. It's all the material that's there. It's everything. Everything from the past to the present to the future. So this concept of God expands beyond what we can perceive and encompasses absolutely everything. So it's not the concept of God on a throne, being one God with a beard and a robe, sitting on the throne, ruling over everyone. Sometimes God is represented that way, or there are allusions to a throne or to a right hand or a left hand, and when that comes up, we can discuss that. So there are certain circumstances where God is anthropomorphized, but the principle of oneness in Judaism and God is one. So we won't even try and reduce that concept to a name of God, and instead we refer to God when we're speaking and learning as Hashem, which means the name. We're not even going to try and reduce this concept of everything into a name and reduce it that way, because it doesn't honor that principle and that understanding of the all-encompassing one.
I say, in the Christian tradition, people, I think, might recognize this as the prohibition about perhaps saying the name of God in vain. Right? Thou shalt not say the name of God in vain. This is the parent idea of that, as I would say. The origin. the origin idea.
Yeah, I think so. You don't want to. Well, I think you don't want to use it loosely. You want to use the sacred names that we have for God in prayer, or when we're
Only
actually,
during sacred times. You know?
yeah, only during liturgy.
Yeah.
Now, so then we're going to learn the Torah, and we say the blessing because what we're doing is we're recognizing this oneness, this divine source, has then produced the Torah. And so, as Jews, we believe that the Torah comes directly from Hashem. It was taken down by Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, and then it was given to the Jewish people to learn and to study throughout the years that we would be in existence. So the analysis that I'm going to engage in today is not going to be one where we're just going to look at the text literally. We're going to look at the text, but look and analyze it in a way that it's applicable to the world now. Because the beauty of the Torah, when you recognize that it comes from an eternal source that spans beyond time, then you recognize that the book itself, the Torah itself, also from that divine source, is beyond time. So it's applicable to the Jews who were just given the Torah in the desert, in the wilderness, as just as applicable as for the world now, and 100 years ago, and 500 years ago, etc. So we're going to read into this, and this is really interesting parsha that we're going to talk about, because we're going to look about what this parsha will tell us about the construction of the mobile temple that the Jews built in the desert to worship God. And this was the precursor to the holy temple that would be built in Jerusalem. And so then we ask ourselves, why, and this is the big question about Parsha Terumah, if the Torah is eternal, why are we reading about the construction of a mobile temple that will never have any applicability to the world outside of the limited time period in which the instructions were given in the Torah? And then there was going to be the main temple that would be built in Jerusalem. So this is a very temporary thing. So why do we as Jews in our tradition continue to read this? Of what relevance does it have to us when we know even back then it was only for a very short period of time was this parsha relevant with its instructions on how exactly to build that mobile temple in the desert. So the parsha begins. The parsha is called Parsha Terumah. So let's first explore what that word means, Terumah. So it begins, V'yadaber Hashem el Moshe lemor, daber el b'nei Yisrael v'yikachu li terumah me'ed kol ish asher yidabenu libo tikhu et terumati. Hashem speaks to Moshe, saying, he's saying to Moshe, speak to the children of Israel and let them take for me a portion from every man whose heart motivates him. You shall take my portion. So terumah means a portion. So the Torah is telling us several things if we break this down. Take for God a portion from every man, we're going to say people, for every person, whose heart motivates them, you shall take my portion. So what I find interesting about Judaism is the constant reference to the heart, and the heart being a motivator for someone to do good. One of the main lessons in Judaism, or commandments in Judaism, is to love God with all your heart and all your soul. So what is this deal with the heart? I mean, we know the heart is just a muscle that is just pumping blood into our bodies. So what is so significant about our hearts? Our minds are where we think. One would assume that's where love would emanate from, because it's a thought process that you have. But we can see that throughout different cultures, there's an acknowledgement that the heart itself has this very unexplained, significant part of our lives. When you love with all your heart. When you fall out of love, your heart is broken. You know, so the heart, and of course in yogic philosophy, we have the heart-mind connection. And when Jews put on tefillin, this is a tradition for Jews during when you pray the morning prayers for men, they'll put on a small leather boxes with straps, one next to the heart, one next to the mind. So there's this link within Judaism for the heart-mind connection. And we see the commandment here of giving a portion from your heart to God. So it continues. This is a portion that you shall take from them: gold, silver, copper, turquoise, purple, scarlet wool, linen, and goat hair. Now, Rav Yirmiyahu will get into the specifics of the building itself. But I think we have to ask ourselves, what is really going on here in terms of giving from one's heart, and what is being built? And how does this span across time? So on one hand, what's relevant in the moment is the building of the mobile temple. And one could interpret that verse by saying, okay, whatever someone feels like giving, they're going to give the gold, silver, turquoise, and precious metals, and any kind of building materials that might be necessary in order to build the temple. But what about us? What's the lesson here for us? And what does the temple represent? So, and you can chime in whenever you want, Rav Yirmiyahu. So the temple, when it was built, the temple was supposed to be a place where God dwelt, with the Holy Shekhinah dwelt. And it was a place, a meeting place for the high priest and the Shekhinah.
Okay, I'm gonna jump in. You just said
yeah,
something.
I knew it was happening. I was priming it.
I know, you're right. You were giving me the entry.
Yeah.
Hiya. He says Shekhinah. So it turns out, in book club, which is the meeting following this one, where we were going to talk about this. The chapter that we are reading is dun 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 the Shekhinah. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about the Shekhinah, and if you are reading the stone edition of the Tanakh, the one that Aaron has recommended, you'll see the comments. This is where they're talking a lot in the comments, these Kabbalists, about the Shekhinah. What is the Shekhinah? It is the part of God that dwells with us, that lives, is palpable, that can manifest in the physical, and travels, and the word stems from, is associated with dwelling and living among the Jewish people, being carried forth. So it's used a lot in this section here, with various commentaries in the Zohar and this and that, about the palpable aspect of the Shekhinah, which is God on earth, and that it's the associated with Malchut, the lowest of the Sephirot, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So this is I'm just saying, this is like the setup for the next show later this afternoon. Now, so the second part. So now we're in with the Shekhinah, and now we have all of these directions, right? Directions about building stuff, and I don't know, Aaron, if you want to talk more about that stuff now, or you want me to jump, go into that, or how do you want to handle that?
Yeah, I'd like to, because we can always go to the text. I'd like to just talk about a theory that I have. in
Can I
terms of
just-
Let's
why-
do it.
Can I just mention something about the Shekhinah?
Yes,
this
of
is-
course.
Okay, so can you introduce yourself? Who this mysterious woman with this beautiful accent? Who is this?
Okay, my name is Sabina.
And where are you from? Where is this accent from? It's very foreign. And you must be. Is it Queens? Queens, New York?
I think you're about to get a foot in the tuchus.
Well,
It must be-
everyone can tell that it's an Israeli accent. So,
Oh
No.
wow! What a guess! Thank you for
yeah,
coming.
what a guess. So I came late. I don't know if you mentioned it, but in case you did, you did. In case you didn't, I just wanted to emphasize that Shechina is coming from the word dwelling, lishkon. Did you mention that?
Yes,
No.
I said dwelling. It's associated with dwelling, living among.
Not just associate, it's the same meaning.
It's yes, it's the same
Shochen.
word. Yes.
Shochen,
Yes.
right? And I don't remember where, if it's in this parasha or a different, but it says in the Chumash, ועשו לי מקדש ושכנתי בתוכם. And they will build for me a temple, and I will dwell in them.
I was
That's
just
right.
like,
I'm sorry.
no, it's great. It's great. No, we're thinking
I thought you wanted to say it. It's something that the Rebbe, Lubavitcher Rebbe emphasizes a lot, why it doesn't say, and they make for me, they build for me the temple, and I will dwell in the temple. It should be say, and I will dwell there. No, but I will dwell in them. In
okay.
their
That's right.
Explain. So what did the Rebbe mean by that? Because I was going to talk about that too.
That Hashem, that our body is the Beis Hamikdash, is the Mishkan. Our body is the.
We lost her.
Yeah, we lost her. Well, the reason I didn't, I mean,
This is where I was going. This is where I was actually going with the theory, with the temple. So I'll finish it up.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So what the Parsha is telling us, it's talking about the mobile temple. So the Mishkan is a temple that was built. It was temporary and it was constructed out of various materials, and it would be set up by the Leviim and in the desert in a designated area. And then the Kohanim, the priests, would go and they would make sacrifices and serve God through sacrifices and burning incense and lighting the menorah and doing all these things in the temple. And people would then bring sacrifices for the Kohanim to sacrifice on the altar. And this is where it would happen in this kind of tent that was set up to replicate the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. So the question I have is, okay, that's great, but why are we learning? Why do we continue to learn about this mobile temple? And Sabina was mentioning, and it says in the Torah, within the first paragraph of the Parsha, they shall make a sanctuary for me, so that I may dwell among them. So even though the temple, the mobile temple, the temple in Jerusalem is a building. The outside wall still stands there. That's where many Jews will pray when they go there. Right now, where the temple stood is a mosque. And it was a building that was built with large, huge blocks, and it was not moving anywhere. What's different about the Mishkan, this mobile temple, is it went with the Jews as they were traveling around in the desert. So, as Sabina was pointing out, and as the Lubavitcher Rebbe also alluded to, is that the Shekhinah, the Parsha is saying that God will dwell among them. That means and what we see in the beginning of the Parsha is you will give from your heart. So it's God dwelling within your heart. As your heart is giving, then God is dwelling in there. And we know these universal laws, right? The love you take is equal to the love you make. And so this is what you're doing from your heart. You're giving from your heart, and coming back to you is God then dwelling in your body. You are the Mishkan. You are the mobile temple. You are where God dwells, in you, in your heart. And it begins with the discussion of what the significance of the heart is. You give from the heart, and then God dwells within you. And so this is why we're learning about the mobile temple. It's because it does have relevance, because God knew that the temple would be destroyed, because God spans beyond time. And so the only relevance, it would not be relevant, the actual temple site in Jerusalem, there'd be a long period of time where it would be irrelevant. But what would be most relevant to us would be the mobile temple that we would bring with us in our hearts, in our souls, in our bodies, and where we would go and where we would travel. In the wilderness, literally, that's where we are as Jews now, expelled from Israel, and we're in the wilderness, just like the Jews were not yet in Israel at this time. They were just coming out of slavery, and they were on their way to the promised land. So too, our legend has that we are dispersed from Israel, and then we are on our way to return, all the Jews to be in Israel in the coming of the Mashiach, the Messiah. So that is the purpose of studying the construction of the Mishkan. And maybe I just want to point out, it talks about the construction of the Ark of the Covenant. For those of you who are unfamiliar with what it looks like, I refer you to Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's a nice replica in that movie. And I also want to point out something that Rabbi Yirmiyahu taught me in his first seminar that he ever gave with Temple of Miriam. And it was, what were the Jews before they were Jews? And what traditions did they bring with them before they were Jews?
I asked that question.
Yeah, it was brilliant. I quote you all the time on this.
Wow. I must have been a smart guy. Okay, yeah. What did you say?
Well, I'm going to point out a very interesting fact that I learned in a recent trip to Egypt. So in the Cairo Museum, you will see a similar replica in Egypt, in the Egyptian religion, when the tombs were explored and items were taken out of not the tombs, but the temples. There were arks similar to the ones that are described in the Torah that were part of the inner sanctuary in some of these temples. And there, in fact, there's one in the Cairo Museum that has, instead, as it's discussed in the Torah, where there are two cherubim, two angels on the top of the box. The box has gold inside and outside. There's a box in the Cairo Museum, which is an ark. And it constructed almost exactly like the ark as it's described in the Torah, except on the outside of the box is gold, and in the gold are reliefs of angels on the outside, not on the top, but on the outside.
Well, wait a minute. Don't say angels. There are reliefs of cherubim.
Yeah, cherubim, yeah.
Specifically, because I want to make that distinction.
Yes, okay, you're right. Not angels. But in similarly,
there are a type of angel that has a particular description.
Yes. And the Egyptian.
Yeah. What, Sabina?
In the Ark in Beit HaMikdash, the cherubim were one female, one male.
Yes.
It was a female and a male.
Yep.
Okay.
And what would happen when in a holy time with the female and male?
They would turn.
They would face each other when the Jewish people, they faced each other when the Jewish people did God's will. And they would go back to back when the Jewish people.
They would face away from each other if they were being naughty.
Yeah.
Now, what's the theory, Sabina, if you know, why the angels, one was a man and one was a woman? Why did they even have a gender? Why did they even have a gender? Right?
I think because God is both. That's my opinion.
Mhm.
I don't know, I didn't read it, but God is because, yeah, God is a female and a male.
Yeah.
So,
Adam
and that would be,
and when Adam and Eve were before Adam and Eve were created,
Distinctly, they were one. They were
Now-
one. Yeah, they were them.
the first woman was not Chava,
Yeah.
the one that was created with Adam, right? But they were created back to back, and then God split them, and then they came facing one each other. But first they were back to back, and God created the human, the us in his image. This is what the Torah says. So if God created us in his image, then God is a male and a female, or a female and a male, whatever you want to say.
and what's interesting, in Sabina, you and I have talked about this, the Hermetic principles, the Kybalion talks about some of the principles that supposedly existed before Avram Avinu, and then were taught to Avram Avinu. And one of them was the role of gender, that everything has a gender. So it's interesting that this is maintained throughout it, and it's also reflected in language too, right? So Hebrew has genders for nouns, and we even see it in Romance languages. We see gender assigned, to nouns in Romance languages. And why is that? No one can really say why there are genders assigned to it, but there had to be, at some point when language was developing, an acknowledgement of gender within this concept. But then there's also, when we talked about this before, Sabina, I think last time, right, isn't there the whole concept of like the neshama being female and Hashem having like a male presence? So there's like this relationship between humans and God that reflects the male-female relationship that we have, and what we do when we're in those relationships here, and we create a unity, that there's also a unity, that a male-female connection between the divine presence and human beings. Even though, as you said, it's acknowledged that God is man and woman, we still use these allusions to a gender to signify a unity between a male and female. Could you just talk about that a little bit? Isn't it in the feminine waters? This mimer with the feminine waters.
Feminine waters, yes. Nashim Mayim, yeah. Well, I don't want to interrupt if Sabina's going to answer that.
I don't think that I'm ready to talk about it right now.
Okay, I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Yeah, because I didn't want to put.
Want to say, when I want to say something, I want to say when I know more, not what I know now or what I can.
Sabina, let's prepare that for next time, because it's I have a mimer. I have a mimer on this.
My understanding, which some of the stuff that I've written, I've put in the chat, which is so to expand upon these ideas, right? Judaism has early Judaism identified at least 6 different genders, right? Adam was considered a them, and we've already talked about that. I think in other, we haven't talked about it in Parsha because we started after Genesis, right, where it started with Exodus. But if you start with Genesis, and you can read the article here. It talks about Adam being a them, and them is the idea that they are a reflection of one, male and female. God is everything, and on earth, the Shekhinah is often associated with the divine feminine, And again, so we're looping right back around to kind of stuff we're going to talk about in book club. So I don't want to take up, I don't want to say things twice.
Okay. So moving on, I'm going to just talk about make two different points, and then maybe Rabbi Yirmiyahu, you can take over the actual construction of some of these items. So the Parsha goes on to talk about the construction of the menorah. Now the menorah is different from the Hanukkah menorah that we see, because this menorah had 7 lights, and all of them were even. There was no one that was higher. Hanukkah is a holiday that came much after. It was actually a holiday that developed after the Torah was given.
Well, explain first. Wait a minute. Let me explain. A menorah for everyone out there is, a candelabra, and you see them during Hanukkah, but that one is different than the usual one. That one is specific for that holiday, and it's called a Chanukiah, okay? And a Chanukiah is a menorah that has 9 branches, okay? And then the regular menorah has, is 7, right? So it's talking, when we're talking about menorah, yes, Hanukkah is a type of menorah, but we're not talking about that one yet, because that one hadn't yet been invented. We hadn't gotten to that holiday yet. Okay, so now we're just talking about the 7-day-a-week, regular, run-of-the-mill menorah. So that's the setup. Sorry, Aaron, take it away. I've given background.
Sure. So the menorah, and you'll never see anyone with a 7-branch menorah, because it's forbidden to replicate this menorah that was only designated to be in the Holy Temple. What's interesting is there is a relief of carving relief. I don't know where it's from. It's very famous. It shows the Romans sacking Jerusalem, and it shows the menorah being carried out on the back of either a slave or a Roman soldier. That is the menorah that was supposed to be in the temple.
Yeah, that's why I'm convinced it's in the Vatican.
Yeah, well, some people say that. I heard that there's some type of arrangement being made actually with the Vatican to release.
I think it's in the Vatican. I've always thought that. Anyway, that's aside. Anyway,
we don't know. We don't know, because we know many vessels and tools that were in Beis Hamikdash. Already King David, he built underground, maybe tunnels. I don't know what he built, and many things are stored there. So
right.
We don't know if the menorah is stored still in those tunnels.
I know, but I'm just going to tell you, Sabina, when I went to the Vatican, all right, they had this dossier on Galileo starting when he was like 17 years old. They had an eye on him already. They already were developing a file on Galileo. I just don't see the Romans like not carting that off and putting it in storage.
I don't know.
I know.
All I know is one fact. I know that the way that the Romans draw the picture of the menorah, it's not the way it was in Beis Hamikdash, because they made the branches, they made them round. And
that's correct. And that's why there's the big Chabad difference between the straight. So what Sabina is talking about, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you know this, but there is a big, even within Jews, right? You see either menorah that is like curved sometimes, and then you see this one that is straight, okay? And
there are different opinions. And there are different opinions.
There are different opinions as to whether or not which is what, and whether or not which is correct, whether or not it should have the straight or very not the curved. Okay, and like literally, this is what Jews talk about on a Saturday night. Is it really like, well, obviously on a Tuesday night, they sit around like tonight on a Tuesday and they go, I don't know. You think those things were curved or you think they were straight? So there you go.
Well,
That's
no,
what-
I can tell. Oh, sorry, someone wants to say something.
No, it's great. Yeah.
No, someone is trying to say, and his microphone is mute.
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
I was just going to say, I will give the Catholic Church a lot of things, but one of them is not the benefit of the doubt. So,
well, let's all be let's stay with the kindness.
1 second, I just want to tell you, the Lubavitcher Rebbe says that they were straight. This is his
Straight.
opinion. And he says why the Roman made it look like it's round, because it's bended. It looks like you cut corners. By Judaism, you don't cut corners. Everything is straight. And the Romans wanted to say you can cut corners. But that's how one of the ways that the Rebbe says that the branches of the menorah, they were straight. We don't cut corners.
Yeah, nonetheless, we have menorahs of all shapes and sizes and various artistic interpretations.
Right, but we're talking
fun.
about the menorah in Beis Hamikdash.
Yes, which is different. So the Chanukias they're all different types. But the menorah and the Beit Hamikdash, there are different opinions on its construction. But we don't see replicas because you're forbidden from making a replica of this. So, but in any event, so let's just talk briefly about what the menorah represents. So, the menorah was in it was olive oil that was used, and it was symbolized as the illumination of the intellect. And so the menorah also represented another dimension of the Torah. There's a commentator, Sforno, who says that the 6 branches on each side pointed to the center stem, which teaches that all intellectual achievements must be directed toward the central authority of Torah. And remember, what this is it's not just a book. The Torah is representing the oneness of everything. So it's like all your intellectual ability should be towards this concept of oneness, which should always be on your mind. The menorah also represents another dimension of the Torah, the oral law, that was God-given companion of the written Torah. So aside from the written Torah, there was the oral Torah that was taught from God to Moshe. I can give you some examples of this. One obvious example is how to, what a kosher slaughter is. Nowhere in the Torah is kosher slaughter described. Yet, before the internet, all Jewish communities scattered throughout the world, whether they were Jews in India or Yemen or in Germany or in Spain, all agreed that there was a kosher way to slaughter an animal. This obviously came from a central source, and that would have been the oral Torah that was also given by God to Moshe and then taught to the elders and then taught to the Jews in general. And that's how
that's good. That's a good religious. I mean, that's in line with, with your theology.
So, and so states further, by using the principles and methodology taught to Moshe and Sinai, human beings exercise their own creative, inquisitive abilities to derive new knowledge and apply eternal wisdom to new situations. Just as the illumination of the menorah was created by wicks that were made by humans, oil and flame, the oral Torah is the human's contribution to the Torah itself. So it has this otherworldly representation of intellect. And what I wanted to also point out is something that I've seen in many different reliefs, like from the Anunnaki, and then you'll see even in Mayan reliefs, there'll be 7 lights that will often be seen in these reliefs. And the 7 lights are often referred to as the planets that the people could discern from the night sky. I submit that there's something in common with those lights that you'll always see in these ancient reliefs that predate the Torah. And now they seem this whole notion or worship or acknowledgement of these lights was then kind of codified, if you will, in, I don't know if that's the right word for it, but just maybe represented in the 7 branches of the menorah and 7 lights being present there. So and this is another instance, this is only my theory, but this is another instance of what Rabbi Yirmiyahu talked about when he first began the discussions with Temple of Miriam, and why he was even going into this endeavor of finding out about Jewish mysticism and spell casting, and that a lot of this, he theorizes, was from the cultures and the people who predated Judaism, that they had these traditions before they acknowledged the oneness of everything and became Jews. But they still brought with them these history. And I think the menorah too may be a representation of that. We don't understand why there is these repeating symbols in these different ancient reliefs, but they are there. And they're always in the number 7. And so I submit that there's something unique about that, and that there is a common thread. And I think, and again, this is in the temple, this is in a holy place. So, and I think that's all I got. And I would just pass the torch over to you, Rabbi Yirmiyahu, about discussing the actual building and the construction of the different items in the temple.
Well, I'm going to put a link. I'm going to start by putting a little link in the number there about gematria and the number 7, right? And that obviously, it shows up over and over and over again. It's one of our many mystical numbers, along with 3 and 5 and 18 and 36. And with the priestly blessing following the 357 rule, and you have 7 prophetesses, and 7 is a big, 7
days of the week,
7 Mars. You can, if you look for 7s, you'll see 7s. If you look for 23s, you'll see some 23s. But such is the aspect of numerology and gematria, which allows one to accidentally fall into madness. But what I'd like to just focus on in the last few minutes actually is the practical nature of this section of the Parsha, right? Which is that what's coming here is this sort of like, what's here is now like, Exodus is kind of like, the Jewish guide to camping, okay? And like how to like do stuff in the wilderness, okay? And many people ask me things like, hey, Jeremy, how do I make an altar? How do I make an altar that I can take with me? And I in fact, have a workshop. We have workshops on that sort of thing at the Temple of Miriam. And how do I make an incense burner? Like, well, the directions are right here. Right here. These are the directions. And, now, can you make some substitutions? Sure.
But Yirmiyahu,
yes.
there is a prohibition against doing the exact constructions and even the incense itself, while there is a
Yes.
formula, we are
Absolutely.
commanded not to go ahead and do that. You can tweak it, but you're never supposed to replicate it. It's
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. There is that prohibition. So it is interesting, you know, so we get, I mean, there is that prohibition, exactly the same with the, you know, menorah, don't make it exactly like that, which is what gives you a little bit of room for personal artistic interpretation. All right, now you know what the function is, now you know what roughly it should be like, and now you can make your variation, right? Doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be exact. Now, I often find it really, I mean, now we can also, in my workshop on incense and incense magic and replicating that formula and the research that's gone on, et cetera, et cetera. I will just make mention of the fact that acacia is a prominent feature of the construction of these items, okay? And acacia, for those of you that do know and don't know, is it, you know, does burn, is where natural DMT and hallucinogens do occur, but it has become over time symbolic in many different traditions with mysticism and death and seeing the other side, connecting to the other side. And so you will find, if you look on the internet, like if I go and I search up Acacia Cemetery, okay, cemetery.
I work with Acacia Funeral Home.
You work with Acacia Funeral Home. Did you hear say that? I don't know if anybody heard that.
One of the funeral homes I work with is called Acacia Funeral Home.
Acacia Funeral Homes. Acacia. So if I look up Acacia Cemetery, there's going to be like, there's Acacia Memorial Park, Acacia Funeral Home, Acacia. There's 18 of them. Okay, 20. Okay, I'm looking at, you know, oh my God, I'm getting even more. Acacia for Center for, you know, okay, so Acacia Memorial Park Cemetery, okay, contact us. Okay, so so you get it, it's adopted into many, that particular botanical wood, whatever, you know, has been symbolic of mysticism for a very, very long time and has permeated many, many traditions, and still the residual can be seen around you if you look for it, if you know what to look for and why Grandma happens to be buried at Acacia Memorial Gardens. That's why.
Why? Because she was in the 60s? She's from the 60s and she's all psychedelic?
No, because acacia it has long been associated with the mysticism of the other side, of going to the other side.
The acacia plant was often planted at Jewish graves.
Yeah, the acacia plant was planted at Jewish graves as well. Yes. Yes, it's the mysticism of the other side. So there you go. So, Any other questions, comments, queries, worries, thoughts, concerns? The next Parsha.
Why don't you talk about gold? Why is gold so significant too?
Gold is another one. Well, I have an entire blog about the tabernacle has 10 curtains, and it talks about various colors and color magic and mysticism and the mysticism of gold. It's just, unfortunately, we only have like 8 minutes, so I don't, I feel like we don't have enough time to cover it.
We don't have to cover it all, but I mean, gold seems to be, I've always been fascinated that in cultures around the world, gold is this metal that has been used in religious ceremonies. You have Aztec Incas, they're using gold. We have the Egyptians using gold in their in the construction of their sacred items. We have it here. We have the church.
Yeah, why is it universally? Are you asking why is it a universally rare and prized?
Yeah. So the answer that has always been given to me is, it's an easily malleable metal to work with.
Yeah, but their skin is easily malleable too, so that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So there's something else that's going on here.
There's a lot of something else that's going on. Yeah. I agree with you.
So,
you don't think it could have anything to do with the rarity?
No, I think it's more than, I think it's more than the rarity as well. I think it's the liminality. I mean, I think there is something that, and I don't know exactly what it is, that is universally agreed upon, but the rarity, why cadmium is not exactly a prized metal.
And I don't think it's that rare either, because if cultures around the globe on all continents are using it, it can't be like that rare. It was being sought out in South America, in Central America, it was being sought out in Europe, in Africa, in the Middle East, in China. I mean, there were so many.
That's what I mean. It's not that rare and it's not that useful, so what is so special about it? It has to be something else that is universally prized, that makes it universally prized.
You think it was conductivity? What is its conductivity for energy or something? There, look.
Well, it does transmit energy, but so does amber and triboelectric things. And so, I mean, I don't know that that's necessarily rare either. I don't know what it really is. I mean, I think it's worth pondering, that's for sure. Yeah. And plus, we only have 5 minutes left, and we have to get to the Shekhinah. Us other people who are going to go to book club.
Have you considered gold is pretty?
Gold is very pretty. I do think,
if we're looking for correlation, causation, mix-ups, it seems like countries that get their hands on a lot of gold also get their hands on a lot of power somehow. I mean, I don't want to get economics involved in this, as that is a very evil religion.
Yeah, but why was it decided that gold? I mean, of what utility? Iron was more important than gold.
Yeah, but he's making a point, because there has to be a correlation, because he, like I said, it's sought after, and then it represents some type of power, and it actually attracts power. Right? Power. So power goes to those who have the gold.
Keep in mind also, okay, like there's a whole discussion that could be talked about with the economics of rarity. Now, we talked about it earlier. You said, well, I don't get how like gold is rare if everybody's got it. Rarity is relative, okay? And also
Well, that's an excellent point. That is an excellent point.
Rarity is relative, and one of the reasons, for example, why it used to be that bicycles were a rich people thing. Art was a rich people thing. Going to the beach was a rich people thing. It's when it started getting easy for the poors to do it, all of a sudden it was no longer a rich people thing, and people didn't value it the way that they did in a bygone era. I believe gold basically falls in that same thing. Because processing it to the point where you get it nice and shiny and you make the nice jewelry out of it and all that stuff, I mean that's kind of spendy. Okay, you really got to have a little bit of pull and influence, and being able to have the pull and influence to say who gets the gold and who doesn't, that's a factor. So consider.
Agreed. And I really like the point you made about attracting power. Yeah. Because if we acknowledge that everything is made up of energy, gold must have this unique energy that attracts power, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a material item anyway, because think about it, people are assigning to this material something very special. And then because we're assigning that universally around the world, we all assign this like importance and this value to like an ore. As opposed to any other ore, this one is assigned this value and importance, and then we give it that energy. We assign it that, and then the people who have it, they have the power. It's insane. It really is insane.
Right. Again, perception is reality in so many ways.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, it was wonderful sharing this time with everyone, and let's just close with a prayer for peace here in the Middle East, in our own heart, in our communities, in our homes. And hopefully tomorrow we'll take the lesson of bringing that temple that has God's spirit, the spirit of oneness within us, and we bring it to everyone else tomorrow who we meet and for the rest of our lives. And we spread that oneness, that unity wherever we go. So God bless everyone, and have a wonderful week. I look forward to sharing some time with you next week. And have a good Shabbat.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, love you all.
I'm gonna jump into the next meeting. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Sabina. Thank you, Hakamzilla. Thank you, everyone.